the conflict between Israel and Palestine is not Islam versus Judaism. No, that's not correct. It's the Zionists, the government of Israel. They want to take the land. So it's them versus their neighbors. There are Christians in Palestine. There are Jewish Arabs in Palestine. And they are against the Zionists. As a matter of fact, around the world, we see most of the protests, about 95%, are in support of Palestine. It doesn't matter what religion they are, whether they're atheists, they're Muslim, right? They're Buddhists, right? They're Hindus, they're Jewish people, they're Christians, they're agnostics, but they're supporting Palestine because they see the horrible conflict. But looking at the history, we see since the rule of Islam came to Palestine under the Arabs and later the Ottomans, there were Jewish people who lived there, and they were able to practice their religion, and they were able to do it peacefully, and the Muslims allowed them to practice Judaism. That's very different from the Roman Empire, the Christians who controlled the Roman Empire. As we know what happened, Hadrian, he committed a genocide against the Jews, right? He killed most of them or kicked them out of the Holy Land. They were able to come back step by step, but during Islamic rule, there were some Jews who were able to come back, and they lived there. Also under Islamic Spain, right? Islamic North Africa, while the Jews were being killed by the Christians. In Europe, they went to North Africa, to the Arab countries, and they lived peacefully and were able to practice their religion. Let's look at Maimonides. He was a Jewish scholar, one of the most famous Jewish scholars. He lived in Islamic Spain, and then he lived in Egypt, and that was Islamic controlled territory. But he was able to live there peacefully, and he was even, I believe, a doctor to one of the rulers of Egypt. And not only that, he was able to make his theological statements of Judaism under Islamic rule. Even though maybe they didn't agree on everything, they had the freedom to do so, and Maimonides was able to do so. So this conflict now we say is between Muslims and Jews. No, that's not quite correct. It's between the Zionists. The Zionists came, 150 years ago, and they ruled Israel for 75 years. So that's a fairly new conflict. It's not something about religion, right? It's about politics, about economics, taking over the land. And we know that most of the Zionists in the world, they are Christians, even though in the past, the Christians, well, as I just said, they were very much against the Jews for crucifying their God. So now we have these Zionist Christians. How does that work with Christianity? It makes no sense, right? How can you celebrate Jesus or celebrate this Christmas season when you know that the Jews killed your God? So now you're giving them your money to go kill more people. It doesn't quite make sense. But as I said, even most of the Christians, including the ones in Palestine and in many countries around the world, as we see from the protests and we see from some of the political statements of some of the Christian countries like Colombia or Bolivia or Russia, South Africa, the list goes on and on. Right? We see that most of the Christians, they support the Palestinians too. So this is not a religious conflict. Right? This is a economic conflict. It's about stealing land.